Hey you guys, today we're going to talk about the DIY system, the cold air system that I have created for the Vue. Alright, so the universal kit that I bought was basically this one. You see it's got a place where we can plug in our sensor that's in our air box. And we've got two bends. And we've got some straights, and then we got all these stupid plastic connectors. And then we've got our coupler. Okay, that's all well and great, and that will all buckle together and kind of come up with something like this. My primary reason, I needed this bend, and potentially this guy. Now, I was not pleased with the quality of this version, so I bought a Spectre. Spectre made a version of that as well. I do not have the picture of the Spectre one, but I will roll it in at this point. So, yeah, I'll drop that picture in. How it works is basically like this. You have all these little adapters, so you can fit them into the different ports according to what fits your particular car. This is actually what I ended up, the box, they turned it inside out to ship it, but yeah, these were all the parts. They have these stupid little black gaskets, and it's a whole mess. Some of them were broken. Yeah, it turned into a complete chaotic mess. Again, the whole point no, it didn't come like this. It was just a little rinky-dinky little filter crap. Whatever. And this wasn't even worth using. It was this horrible, hard silicone. It was, yeah, it was a mess. Anyway, so I didn't use any of it and decided to purchase my own couplers. So moving on to what I used at the air intake, I got this guy, this 3-inch, 3-ply silicone designed for intercoolers. And I was hoping it would be long enough, but it was not. I ended up having to space this out ever so slightly right here and space that out. So that way it's less of a true arc because of this space and where it placed this. I didn't want this sitting completely on the intake. I wanted to give it enough room to go across the back to line up with my mounting bracket. That's what that guy ended up costing me, this fella. Yep. On to this. Those are the couplers that I used where I did not use the cheap ones from that kit. Worked out great. I may trim them down now so that the red is a little less obnoxious. I haven't decided just yet, but that wasn't that much. That was good price for good quality parts. So yeah, that was good. And I'll be if any of this stuff is still available, I'll be leaving you guys some links in the description. But those are the original. I didn't order these, but this just kind of gives you an idea of what you can get and what it would cost you. I just had stuff laying around that I used. I'm upgrading to this style. These T-bolt clamps, they're cleaner. They don't have all the fitting notches on them, and I just think that it's going to be a cleaner option. Now, I was short the top pipe that went across the top part of the engine. That, there wasn't enough in that kit. So I ordered this guy here, and he ended up being just right to go with all of these parts, but I'm upgrading to a longer one. Here he is. You see, he basically takes the place of both of those. So then I don't have to deal with this guy anymore, and I can eliminate one of them. So that's part of the plan. The last element I had to sort out was the bracketry. I had to have something that would go across and mount near the factory location where it held the factory intake. Now, K&N does have a bar welded to their piping, so that was the one bad thing about not being able to go with their system. But I searched and searched and searched until I could find something I could modify to work as a bracket, and I found this guy. This little kit for holding LED lights, whatever, on your bull bars. So that worked out really well. He's right there. Had to pull off the original bracket, and this is what I came up with to replace it. These little guys were an eyesore, so I just had those pieces laying around and covered them up because they were getting all nasty, rusty. All this stuff I'm planning to clean up. I wish I could get my hands on some pretty polished versions of these. But with the other engine cover I have on it, you don't see all that crap. But yeah, so this is how that bull bar light ended up working down there. Okay, but that's basically an overview of what I used to get here. That's the true overview of all the pieces I had to go through to kind of convolutedly put this together. You see, this is all how the pieces go, and I'm hoping to get to that. This is the master plan, is to go to this from that to this. All right, the curves. Where did I use them from that kit if you just wanted to do the cheap version like I originally did? I think I calculated and it came up to about 150 or so that I spent. And of course, I had my own hose clamps. The larger one, now that I look at it. And then down here, we have the other curve that swoops over and goes up under into the headlight area for the filter, which is hanging out down in there. You see his little orange, just happened to be the one I had laying about. So yeah, I didn't mention that. The pieces from that kit are here, 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 there, there. And this I ended up using was the Spectra one because I didn't like the other one. Yeah. And I was those little bands that are in there were broken, so I just used the Spectra one. It was a nicer unit. Okay, I mentioned the Spectra piece and forgot to mention the little adapter. See, I used those little ports that I had pointed out earlier, and that is your factory airbox sensor. I don't know if that's the air temperature sensor or exactly off the top of my head, but anyway, it's the one that's located in your airbox, and it just plugs into one of those ports. I do not remember if I had to modify it with an O-ring, not an O-ring, but a grommet. I will go over that when I disassemble and reassemble for you guys. Anyway, so that's how that worked. No check engine light, no issue, no problems. Now, the other thing I had to address with this install that I hadn't mentioned yet is this piece right here. There is a part that plugs into your intake, and again, K&N did address that with theirs. They have a port that you plug this piece into. This is a hard line, your factory hard line, that normally plugs into a little neck on the factory tubing that goes here. Anyway, what I did is I happen to have one of these little guys sitting around off a unit that got burned back in the day. Long story, not going to go into it. What I did, if you notice, it's that piece. It just happened to be the right diameter. So I plugged my factory hard line into this portion. So I cut mine off right here. This piece, from my thumb forward, is plugged into the intake thusly. So all you're seeing is this little, the barb is inside, and you're seeing this piece. And then I cut that off and put the factory piece in there. And no, I haven't had any codes. There's no Nothing saying that there's any kind of air leaks or anything like that. This was a 80s air vacuum line set up off a 2.8 Camaro and Firebird. Again, my original one burnt, and I had to pull one out of the junkyard, and that was just some of the leftover pieces I had when I was replacing and upgrading mine. So it's just something I happen to have laying around. But that is one thing you may have to address by buying a brass barb or something to that effect that you can plug into the intake, and that will then work as a coupler for this. You know, if you put a little barb in, you can put a vacuum line that will fit over both, and the barb will stay into the silicone piece. So that is an option for you guys. So I neglected to mention that the first go around, so adding addendums as we go. Okay folks, here it is out of the car. We've got a 3-inch filter that I was using on the Del Sol, and so I bought a replacement for the Del Sol and added that back in because this was actually too big. This was one with a 3-inch coupler, which there was all kind of shenanigans going on that the previous owner did to make that fit. So I bought the right one for the Del Sol, got that one. I may eventually replace it with a K&N. I just need to get the dimensions when I'm not driving the car all the time. But this is what I was talking about with those stupid plastic pieces. But this came from the kit. This came from the kit. And I did actually use this piece from the kit. I didn't realize that. I just didn't like the way its vacuum attachments were. So kit. So I just had to go double check. Yes, that was the entire kit that I utilized. Less one or two of those guys because they did not have their attachment O-ring had failed in transit, and they didn't do anything about it. So whatever, it was cheap. I mean, they reduced the crap out of it as it was. You can see the quality of the piping is just meh. So, you know, you can always buy nicer stuff, but again, this was a fitment attempt. This wasn't a let's make it the prettiest and the most whatever. It was for function. And here you can also take a look at this guy a little bit better. Let me see if I can rotate us. Hang on. Yes, that is what I used to split the difference. I don't want to hear it, but this would not work like this. It had to be canted at an angle, so it had to be done. Again, I don't want to hear it, but it worked. Yes, it creates a little bit of turbulence, but being how thin this metal is, it's not causing any issues as far as a reduction. So it made sense. You know, sometimes you just got to use what you got on hand. So yeah, steel can, save the day. But here is what I was telling you guys about that piece. So I just made a hole just the right size, clipped that off, fit it in there, and it's sealed. I haven't had any issues. You see it fits in there. Perfect. No issues at all. No check engine lights, no vacuum codes, nothing like that. So there's that. So that gives us the opportunity to look at this stuff. You can see this is your sensor right out of your airbox. And I got one out of the junkyard to learn how did it go in. Yeah, that port is definitely, I took it out and added my own grommet from a wiring kit, and everything fits in there just perfect. So that is what I did there to modify that. So these little ports, none of them were the right size, and the vacuum tees were not. So I just popped one out and popped that in. Again, it worked best because that was the Spectre kit with the upgraded version. So that's a little bit more of an overview of that, just to give you guys a better idea. And again, this janky crap, I don't like. It's got a captured nut back here that's up inside there, and it's got this guy. All I can see is a catastrophe happening with the mechanic, and them trying to take it apart, losing something, can't get it back together, and then, yeah, so I'm doing away with this. I'll trim these guys, and they'll just be red joints that are barely visible is the plan. But I wanted to give you an overview, again, of what's going on. There you can see, let me see if I can hold that on my knee and zoom y'all in. There you go, you see that, the air intake sensor sticking through. So no issues with him at all fitting in there. But look at the joints on that cheap version. All the little metal burrs and everything else. Yeah, there was no way I was going to trust them with a sensor. But look how clean is the Spectre. Better. It's not 100% perfect, but it's better. So that's what I went with. So just a little cost analysis. This piece here, my brace. Zoom out. Somehow we got to 5. There we go. That little guy pulled off. Here you can see where I attached him. And he just sits on there. And that way it adjusts just fine. It's got all these little holes down the bottom for you to be able to make adjustments for the height. So that worked out perfect. I added a little bit of foam there to protect the pipe. Blah, words. And here is where I added a little spacer, because this is a stud, a little spacer with a my own spacer, nothing that was on the car already, both of these guys. And then just space this out because that whole bracketry was holding all of this, and I wanted everything to be firm, and you see it's good where it is, no problems. And I added this because I was getting a little bit of a rub. And it's just a little box. You see where it even still, but at least that keeps anything from damaging the intake and causing an air leak. Motor mount looks good. And there's our sensor connector, just so you know where everything goes. Yep, so there you go. There's that little bit of an overview for you. All right, and I'll check back in a bit. I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping while I'm up under here, and then I'll get to work.